Welcome to the S&D 50, everybody. Week 12 edition. Spencer, how are you?
I am doing great tonight. It's a good night. It was a decent week of college football. Some super crazy exciting plays, some beat downs, some upsets. It was a lot of fun.
Jacob, how are you?
Amazing, and Spencer, as you said, another good week of college football, but dang, the conference standings in almost every conference is very undecided. I swear there's at least 4 to 6 teams in nearly every conference that still have a shot at making the championship game, and it just brings a lot of excitement to me as I watch each game here down the stretch.
It's crazy, man. I think the Big Ten, Penn State was a little had me wondering for a second. But the Big Ten is the only one that feels like a lock, and it technically isn't. And we'll get to that later. There's some fun that could be had there, but there are some conferences where you feel really confident about one team making it. But my favorite are the ones like the ACC, where it's like, well, I don't know. Could be anyone.
American, Sun Belt, Mountain West, Big 12.
I was asked the difference between the S&D 50 and the BCS system 2 weeks ago. I looked up the answer, and do you want to know the difference, friends?
Yes.
The BCS relied heavily, almost exclusively, upon 2 polls, Coach's poll and the Harris poll. The problem is a computer system relied on polls voted by humans who are biased. For those who are new to this show, this is a poll, this is a model that only rates on-field performance. It does not include conference bias. It does not include previous rank bias. It looks at what you do on the field and what your previous opponents did, and it ranks and rates you accordingly. Spencer, what are you drinking tonight?
I took a step off the ledge of flavors that Jacob was going to judge me for, and I just got some Waterloo Peach. Simple, tasteful, tasty, back to the runner's favorite, or so I hear.
Yeah, the most healthy of all the bubbly water out there.
Explain that one to me.
I don't know at all.
Jacob, what are you drinking tonight?
Orange Gatorade Zero.
Very healthy.
So I'm just going for the artificial flavors and sweeteners today.
It's great. As always, thank you to every single one of you who like these videos, who subscribe, who watch every week. We see you. We are grateful for you. You are the best audience we could ever ask for.
It continually blows us away that people leave like lengthy comments, either telling us how terrible we are or telling us how great it is, or just somewhere in between. They're like, hey, I've got some thoughts here. It's awesome. We love to see it. We read every comment that gets posted. We actually are going to try and respond to some listener questions if we get a chance today. Put them in the comments of our YouTube video. If we get enough, we might throw in the mailbag section too. Try and get to your answers about how our model works, why teams are rated in different spots, and that sort of thing.
My couple fan shout outs this week. Lucas Fernandez was all over Ohio and Miami of Ohio being a good game. He let us know the day before when the pod dropped that was going to be a competitive game of the week. He was spot on. Paid Tourist 6563 gave us about 10 paragraphs on North Dakota State. What a champ. Thank you. And lastly, Austin, who found us on TikTok. Man, you're already a super fan. Thanks for being a sicko. So subscribe. If you haven't already, subscribe to this video. Every subscription helps. This is a YouTube show. Our graphics are discussed as if you're watching this on YouTube. So if you're listening to this episode on podcast, we invite you to check us out on YouTube. Week 11 games in review. So this week, the model went 11 for 14, guys. 11 for 14 in competitive games being competitive. That is 79%. Spencer, how are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling great. And, as we talk about, this isn't predictive. This is basically saying like, hey, over the course of, 10, 12 weeks now, we see these two teams having super similar resumes. And what happens when super similar teams meet? Good football, competitive games. So there's no like prize for this being a competitive game other than us saying, hey, we had these teams side by side and they really truly were. That can be kind of hard if the media at large is only talking about the top 25 teams. Like, we've got some true sicko action out there of teams, 112 versus 114. So we love to see those games pan out. Watching those games, it's all good football.
Absolutely. So the games that hit, we started off the week, Ball State beat Kent State. That game came down to the last play of the game. Friends, what a game between 120 versus 125. Toledo crushes Northern Illinois. This was our biggest miss of the week. Toledo just flexing its muscle. Georgia Southern Appalachian State, a real head scratcher when it comes to competitive because Appalachian State trailed big most of this game, but Georgia Southern hangs on in the end. The final score was 25-23, but the model didn't see it as competitive.
It's because the model doesn't care about final scores. The model is not an AP voter who pulls up the box scores the next day and sees this game and says 25-23, oh, pretty close, pretty close. The model looks at what happens over the whole 60 minutes of the game. And I'll tell you what, Georgia Southern, they almost let this one get away. Like, Appalachian State had a comeback, almost was able to make it pan out. And you saw, like, the competitive rating is not that far off from our threshold. Like, a 70 is what we would consider a competitive game. So it was close to crossing that threshold. And if Appalachian State hadn't made a comeback attempt at the very end, this could have easily been a 25-9 game. They scored 20 of their 23 points in the last 20 minutes of the game.
Tulane beats Memphis. We were on this. There are people all in our mentions saying that Memphis was way better. Take that, haters. Memphis loses to Tulane. Not surprising to us. Jacob?
Not surprising at all. Tulane's quarterback, Jake Retzloff, had a great game. He started off hot and kept things rolling throughout the game, and they were able to hold on against Memphis.
Temple and Army, final score 14-13. Temple continues to play close games. Bowling Green, Eastern Michigan, a less than one score game. Again, 131 versus 127. If you're into that type of thing, we got you. And Missouri State, say it with us, bowl eligible?
Only if enough other teams are not bowl eligible.
We're pulling for you, Missouri State.
This year, it feels like there's going to be a full field of bowl-eligible teams.
And poor Liberty paying how many million a year for this coach, and they lose to Missouri State?
Oof.
4 to 5 mil.
Yeah, brutal. UAB Rice, the sicko game of the week. It is so nerve-wracking to put out that short as the sicko game of the week. Closest differential between two teams in S&D rating points. It delivers on the field. Maryland and Rutgers, they deliver. Kansas, Arizona delivers. Oregon and Iowa, man, we'll get into this, but Oregon gets out by the skin of their teeth. My goodness, I cannot believe they got out alive. Texas State and Louisiana, I did a deep dive on this, a little Andrew investigation. Texas State has not won an overtime game this year, and they have been in 3 or 4 one-score finishes, and they just frequently come out on the wrong side. So poor Texas State. But again, competitive. Florida State and Clemson. Clemson comes out on top. Good for Dabo.
I can't get over the fact that this game, coming into the season, had the potential to be like a top 10 matchup, like prime time, and it got shuttered over to the ACC network.
Nebraska, UCLA, for anyone who stayed up and watched it, I was not one of those people. It looked like UCLA was going to get crushed, but the final score ends up close. Competitive rating hits. This game was competitive. So that brings us to 70% on the season with identifying competitive games that are indeed competitive. These are the teams that fell out of the S&D 50 in week 12. San Diego State drops 31 spots. Florida, they're down 22 spots. Memphis down 11 spots. And Mississippi State, they're at number 51.
I got to say something about Florida. It's about time. Florida is not playing good football. I think they're a really talented football team, but they have not been playing good football. But our model, for whatever reason, has been a Florida sicko all year long. I mean, this team had 5 losses and was still in the 30s.
You're applauding the
So-
model for not being a
I'm-
Florida fan.
Finally. I get it. The model is acknowledging the fact that Florida plays competitive games. They can be a tough opponent. But when you get dog walked by Kentucky, it's about time. That's all I got to say.
Mark Stoops would like a word.
Whoa. We'll talk about Kentucky. I got to root for them, But Florida's out. I like it. I like to see it.
Jacob, San Diego State, the contender, the prospective champion of the Mountain West, no more. The Mountain West looking more like the ACC by the day.
And not only that, San Diego State was looking like they might even have a shot at that G5 playoff spot, but this was a huge loss to Hawaii. Now they're in the muck of the Mountain West with everyone else, and who knows who's going to come out of there.
Memphis, his playoff hopes done.
No,
Technically
I think
not.
a two-loss American team could very well represent the G5.
Here's what I will say, though. I think that a 2-loss American puts you at the mercy of the Sun Belt and what their champion looks like. We'll get into the details of that later once we get to our playoff picture and our rankings. But I do think a 2-loss American, you're not as comfortable depending on how the Sun Belt shakes out.
Mississippi State, another team the models loved all year. They fall out with Florida.
Just by one spot, though, so they'll be back.
Absolutely.
I know they just got snuck by. That's all.
Our honorable mentions for week 12. These are the teams that did not make the S&D 50 that we still want to talk about. Coastal Carolina, Army, Hawaii, the Ohio Bobcats, and UConn.
Coastal Carolina is that team in the Sun Belt that no one is talking about because they started off the year terribly, getting blown out by Virginia, East Carolina, and Old Dominion. But here they are. They've won 4 in a row. Their last 3 games come against Georgia Southern, South Carolina upset anybody, and then they host James Madison. And here's what we're not talking about. Coastal only has 1 loss in the Sun Belt West. It's currently second place to James Madison. If they beat James Madison at home last game of the year, we might be talking about James Madison not even making the Sun Belt championship game. And here everyone's talking about James Madison as a playoff contender.
That is an insane stat.
Now, looking at Army has another team that started off slow this year. 3 of their 4 losses all came by 1 score, but now they've won 4 of their last 5. And this is only their second year in the American, guys. I didn't realize this. Last year was Army's first year in the American, and they won the dang conference. So obviously being in the American Conference is boosting Army's football program.
Yeah, they were independent for a long time, weren't they?
Yes, they were independent before that.
Hawaii it's got to be a travel impact, right? That they're so stinking good at home.
True, and they're questionable on the road.
I mean, these guys are going on what? 6-hour flights every time they have to go anywhere. I actually don't know how long of a flight it is from Hawaii to the mainland.
4+ hours.
Oh, man.
Hawaii's remaining schedule. They go to UNLV in a dome. That's great. Not too far, considering their options. And then they finish at home against Wyoming. Hawaii's having a heck of a year. And you're right, Spencer. As a home team, they are dangerous because of everything the opposing team has to go through.
Now, if Hawaii's bowl eligible, they're a lock for the Hawaii Bowl, right? They're married to that thing.
No idea.
I feel like they are. Anyway, there's our Hawaii content for the day. Someone who's a Hawaii fan who actually knows those facts, comment and tell us if that's true. But Jacob, I think I cut you off. My bad.
I was just gonna say what I love about Hawaii is they hired one of their own in Timmy Chang, who once was the career passing yards leader in the NCAA. Now he's been surpassed by Dylan Gabriel as well as Case Keenum, but he's still holding at number 3, and he still holds the all-time career interception record at 80. But I don't know. I don't know about you guys if you remember watching Hawaii back in the day with Timmy Chang, but they brought him on. This is Timmy Chang's first head coaching job ever. The guy's been an assistant up to this point, and so it's cool to see Hawaii go out on a limb, find one of their own, bring him in. It's taken him a second. This is his 4th year now at Hawaii, but it seems like they've found something, and that this is a Rainbow Warrior team that might stick around here in the Mountain West year in and year out, contending for the conference.
I feel like it always goes better in this coaching carousel era, which, eating my words from earlier in the season when I was like, are these big buyouts going to dissuade people from firing coaches? Turns out the answer is no, because apparently all these schools are really taking advantage of the S&P right now and riding the highs and getting rich off of it. But anyway, apparently people are willing to pay these big buyouts, and I think that the better solution is to get the homegrown folks, the people who really love the team. I mean, you've got Timmy Chang at Hawaii, Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. I mean, if you're LSU, if you're Auburn, I don't know that your answer is to hire the guy who is going to win the most prospective titles. I think you got to get someone who gets culture fit first, because once those two things align, the culture, the money, the players, titles will follow. But there's just a couple cents there. So kudos to Hawaii for hiring their own.
And sticking with him, realizing he didn't have any head coaching experience, realizing that the first few years might be rough, but give him the shot, let it play out, and here it's finally playing out.
Shout out Lucas again. The Ohio Bobcats in the driver's seat of the MAC.
It looks like it. That was a huge win against Miami, Ohio. What a game, too. It was 3-3 at half, and then the fourth quarter, the team started to explode. Back and forth they went. The Bobcats come out on top, which was big time in helping to level the field in the MAC and put themselves in position to make the conference championship.
The Yukon Huskies. I think they're our favorite independent team this season for all three of us, and I don't think it's close. Sorry, Notre Dame. I'm sorry, Notre Dame.
The only other choice out there.
But hey, Yukon, Jacob, take it away.
We knew it. The S&D had put us on to UConn, that UConn was good a long time ago. And I think, Spencer, you brought it up last week, like, hey, what if Duke loses to UConn?
As a 4-loss ACC champion. It's totally in play.
Love it.
It's absolutely in play.
I love it.
Nobody, I didn't hear that from anybody else nationally until Duke lost to UConn, and now everyone's like, uh-oh, ACC might have a 4-loss champ.
I mean, you'd have to be out of your mind to put in a 4-loss ACC champion over, like, if James Madison wins out, and if any of the 1-loss American teams win out, like North Texas, USF, whoever.
Southern Miss.
Yeah, if Southern Miss 2-loss, I could see someone justifying Duke over Southern Miss, like a 9-4 Duke over an 11-2 Southern Miss. It's just the world we live in. But I mean, maybe not. Maybe not.
Losses is a lot of losses. I don't think we understand.
9-4 Duke over 11-2 Kennesaw?
No, I think Kennesaw's in.
Their only 2 losses are to Indiana and Wake Forest.
Wake Forest.
Oh, did Duke lose to Wake Forest as well? And it was Wake Forest by a point. I'll never forget the 10-9.
10-9. Kennesaw
They
State.
barely lost to Wake Forest.
We'll talk more about Kennesaw.
We'll get there.
Getting ahead of ourselves.
For those of you who want all 136 teams, check us out on Patreon. $1 a month will get you all rankings for every single week, each and every week. Thank you to all of our Patreon subscribers. And again, if you haven't subscribed to this video, please subscribe. Okay. The S&D 50 week 12. Here it is, guys, at number 50. We just got done talking about UConn. Here is Duke at 5-4 with an absolute chance to win the ACC. if you're at 50 in this model, you are not out of playoff contention if there's a path.
Duke not only has a chance to win the ACC, it's in their hands. They went out, they're in the championship game because this week they face Virginia. And guess who got hurt for Virginia last week? Chandler Morris. This is going to be interesting. If Virginia cannot score, I do not think they can keep up with Duke's scoring offense with Darian Mensah. If Chandler Morris is out, chalk it up. Duke wins. Duke goes to the ACC championship game.
Minnesota at 49. They were on a bye in week 11. This week, they have Oregon.
Just slipped in there. Just slid right in.
And they are back in the S&D 50, so welcome back. PJ Fleck and the Minnesota Golden Gophers, after getting pummeled by Iowa, they have bounced back.
Hey, there's that 42-3 score.
There you go.
Do they have any shot to catch Oregon at Oregon this week?
Yeah.
They do. Here's why. Supposedly, Dante Moore hurt his hamstring in that Iowa game. So if he is hamstrung, then yeah, they have a chance. Baylor at 48. They host Utah this week. We will get to that game when we unveil Utah's spot. But Baylor rested and ready for Utah.
Rested and ready to score.
At home. At number 47, back in the S&D 50. We didn't think we'd see this team again. Iowa State, they beat TCU. Pretty surprising.
Yeah, TCU felt like they could challenge in the Big 12. I mean, going into this game, they were 6-2. They had some good non-conference wins under their belt, and they played BYU this week. Had TCU won those games back to back, which really possible given how BYU played this week. Catch them on the back foot. Yes, it's at home. Yes, it's a night game, but if TCU had been able to run that, I mean, we would be talking about an 8-2 team going into the end of their schedule. But not only has the chance to make the Big 12 title game, but then you're 10-2. You're right up there with Utah. I don't know if they win that tiebreaker, but TCU really tripped over themselves a little bit here.
At number 46, New Mexico. They were on a bye in week 11. This week, they have Colorado State.
San Diego State losing was a big help to their Mountain West Conference title hopes. They face San Diego State on the last game of the season, which could be a play-in game for the championship.
At number 45, back in the S&D 50, Kentucky. Jacob, you said it before. Kentucky is doing Kentucky things as long as they're in the top 50. Clobbering an overhyped Florida team, like Spencer said, gets them here.
But they now have 2 SEC wins. So that puts them in the same ranks as Missouri, LSU, and Florida. Pretty good company, right?
That's so wild.
I mean, if you're looking at preseason rankings, it's pretty good company.
Stat that.
And the funny thing, too, is I thought you were going to say Tennessee, because there was a minute where Tennessee was close to that line.
But speaking of Tennessee and Kentucky, Kentucky now gets their FCS game, which is the real test of the season. They get number 5 ranked 10-0 Tennessee Tech coming in. I will be tuning into this to see how competitive a game Tennessee Tech can make it, because Tennessee Tech is traditionally not a good FCS school. They've had a really good running this year, their first time ever being undefeated. So they're going to put it to the test against the SEC big dogs.
Arizona, back in the S&D 50 in week 12. They're at 44. They beat Kansas 24-20.
Arizona's been a little bit hot and cold, but beating a good Kansas team, even though they were on the back foot, really kind of established their position in the middle of the conference.
On a positive note for Arizona, they have the same record as their rivals, the Sun Devils. So that last game of the year against Arizona State is going to be a fun one.
We love the Territorial Cup over here. At number 43, down 23 spots. I mention this only because Washington loses to Wisconsin. Yikes.
I bet Washington fans are pretty quiet after that one.
A lot was lost in that loss for them. At 42, down 7 spots, Navy loses their second in a row. They get crushed by Notre Dame. No shame in that, but they are here at 42.
And they still have the most wins in the American Conference right now at 5-1. The next closest is North Texas at 4-1. But this is where Navy earns their stripes, where they either fall out of the American Conference Championship run, or they stay in it because their next 2 games come against South Florida and then Memphis.
41, up 4 spots. We have Kansas State. They were on a bye in week 11. They're on a bye again in week 12 if everything holds serve because they play Oklahoma State.
But they also just lost their starting running back, Dylan Edwards, to the transfer portal. He started off the year hurt, came back, played his 4 games, decided it wasn't worth keeping with the Wildcats, and he entered the portal.
Number 40, TCU, down 17 spots after losing to Iowa State. They have BYU this week, like Spencer highlighted. I think TCU is still a dangerous team.
They are. And I know I talked about TCU during Iowa State segment. Sorry, Cyclones fans. My shout out to you there is that Iowa State actually has a fairly realistic path to the Big 12 title game if there's some chaos, more so than Arizona. TCU still definitely has a chance. If they can get a win against BYU, if they can get even just a moderate amount of chaos down the stretch and they can win out, TCU could find themselves facing likely opponent Texas Tech come the end of the season.
Number 39, up 3 spots. Boise State on a bye in week 11. San Diego State this week.
And they will be without their starting quarterback, Maddox Madsen. Boise fans are very worried about how this is going to go without starting QB. They expect a heavy run game, but they're going to be against one of the best defenses in the country in San Diego State. So tough draw for QB2 and Boise State.
And a tough draw for San Diego State to have to lose at Hawaii and then gear up for Boise State. At number 38, LSU, they lose to Alabama 20-9. The defense played well. The offense searching for answers yet again.
Of all the teams in the SEC that are not in the top 15 or so, I feel like LSU is the biggest what if story to me. You know, like Tennessee has played really well, but like what if they win a couple of their close ones? But LSU across the board, it's been the only one who could really contest them here would be Auburn. But LSU missed opportunities, maybe turning things around with a new AD, new coach next year could really help. They've still got great recruiting classes. But in the era of NIL, does that matter? You know, once you trade your whole staff out? I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Number 37, Houston, up 9 spots. They win a very competitive game against UCF.
All right, so a lot of people might say that Houston, if they were a true contender in the Big 12, would have done more against UCF. That margin of victory would have been larger. But I would argue against that because they did what no team has ever done to UCF before, and that is beat them in a space game.
I'm sorry, what's a space game?
Really? They did. I didn't realize it was a space game.
Up to this point, UCF they've hold an annual space game where they wear their space uniforms, they bring out the Citronaut, and their mascot their mascot literally changes to the Citronaut, which is like orange with a astronaut helmet on it. And they've been 8-0 since the creation of the space game. But Houston put an end to that undefeated streak.
I mean, Houston, we have a problem. Like, that's poetic. It's the only other place that can really
space versus space
contend with UCF for the Space Association.
An arms race for the space game. They should do this every year.
This should be a rivalry.
I think we just invented a rivalry.
The space game shouldn't be a UCF promo. The space game should be the annual UCF Houston rivalry.
The space
Let's make
game.
it happen.
Okay, well, shout out anyone listening. Tell all your friends. We need a new rivalry in the Big 12, and it is the space game. At number 36, Tulane. They go up 4 spots for beating Memphis. This week, they have FAU.
This still feels like, I know it's not the highest ranked team in the model, but if I'm just going about gut feel and watching this team and looking at who's the most battle tested, it seems like it's Tulane.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, they have a win against likely ACC champion Duke. They have a blowout loss to Ole Miss, but like I guess they have experience getting beat by an SEC team. Why not do it again? So I'm all in on Tulane making the playoffs.
Jacob has opened my eyes to watching the G5. I watched a little bit of the G5 before we started doing this show. Now I really spend most of my time watching the G5 because it's so exciting. That game ends with a John Summerall interview with him walking away, closing out with MFGW. You know what that means. And he just walks away. The G5 is outrageous. Just chaotic. At number 35, Nebraska. They get a win against UCLA in Los Angeles, in Pasadena, something Penn State could not say they've done. They're here at 35.
To be fair to Penn State, it is something that New Mexico was able to do. So and UNLV, like UCLA surging felt like a moment, and the moment has passed. Like kudos to Nebraska. Backup quarterback. I mean, I was listening to some people talk today, or over the weekend. It was a Cover 3 podcast. Shout out to them if they listen. That would be sick. But they talked about like it was Dylan Raiola actually holding Nebraska back. I mean, I don't know about that, but this game to me said more about UCLA than it did about Nebraska.
Shout out Chip. At 34, up 7 spots. I'm cheering right now because Spencer put the Plank logo right behind the name if you're watching on YouTube. Kennesaw State 7-2. They beat New Mexico State. Plank, 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 plank. This week, they have Jacksonville State, who is no easy opponent.
Yeah, that's going to be a contest for Conference USA. I will say on the planks, you said it, Andrew, when they first appeared that we would put a plank by their logo for every week they're in the 50, and we didn't deliver last week, but we've delivered now. So there's 3 of them.
Trace Plunks.
See if we can get a 4th one.
Trace Plunks.
It's like helmet stickers, S&D style.
We should do this. Maybe we should. We might be starting a new trend right on the spot. Helmet stickers. Pride stickers, right? Isn't that what they're called?
But Andrew, like you said, Jacksonville State is no cakewalk. They are undefeated in Conference USA play. Kennesaw State undefeated in Conference USA play. This is the game of the year in Conference USA. Winner puts themselves in the driver's seat for the championship game. Honestly, these 2 teams might face each other again in the championship game. So this is the game to tune into for your CUSA action.
At number 33, down 8 spots, Iowa. Guys, a poor Iowa. Can they not catch a break this year? Close losses to Indiana, Iowa State, and now Oregon. If any one of those or multiples go their way, they're probably in the top 15, easy, in this model.
Iowa can't catch a break any year, Andrew. This is the same story that plays out with Iowa every year. They're really good, but just not quite good enough to be in serious contention for the playoffs.
I will say, we didn't really run a simulation on this, but had they beat Oregon, this could very easily be a top 15 team in the S&D 50. Maybe even knocking on the door of 10. They'd probably slot right in the gap that we see in our model. We haven't gotten there yet, but there's a points gap between 13 and 12, which is telling in the era of a 12-point playoff. But they probably would have slotted right into or around that gap on one side or the other.
Iowa has USC this week, by the way.
Iowa USC could really make the Big Ten messy. I mean, if Iowa wins that game, it really, I don't know, maybe that actually cleans it up. But I feel bad that Iowa continues to be looked down upon by everyone in the national media.
Number 32, down 20 spots. Poor Virginia. They lose to none other than Wake Forest, Wake Forest, Wake Forest.
There's our Hamilton reference for the night. Not that we've ever had one in the past, but it feels like something we should have.
We should. I really want to cut it short if Wake Forest ever does something with just that. Wake Forest, Wake Forest.
Well, like I said earlier, Chandler Morris doesn't play against Duke. Problem is on Virginia's hands.
Huge problem. Yeah, Virginia's in trouble, but the ACC is just all over the place. 31, speaking of the ACC, at number 31, SMU. They beat Boston College 45-13. SMU very much alive in the ACC race.
The thing about the ACC race to me is that not only are there a bunch of teams in it, because of the size and breadth and the weird scheduling of the ACC, it feels like every year the ACC is going to come down to tiebreakers of who gets in. And like I was looking the other day at all the one-loss teams and kind of how their schedules could play out, and there are some that play each other. I believe SMU plays Virginia. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but they, and Virginia lost, Louisville lost, so things might change. But like, there's a bunch of paths where you end up with like 4, 5, 6-way ties in the ACC. It's bananas.
And how sweet would it be for SMU to have the season they had last year? The ACC slips out of their grasp to Clemson in the title game. What if this year they played the Clemson card and they are the surging team at the end of the year? They get in and win it. It would just be really nice for Rhett, Lashley, and the boys. At number 30, up 9 spots, East Carolina. This week they have Memphis. This is a huge game for the American.
And East Carolina hosts Memphis. And not only do they host them, they're favored. And here we've been being told that Memphis is the best G5 all year long.
The greatest.
Memphis.
Greatest. They're in the AP top 25.
Yeah. They're the ones that deserve the respect. They're undefeated. And now all of a sudden, a 6-3 East Carolina team is favored to beat them.
We were here first, Vegas. We were here first.
Yes.
That's
S&D
true.
isn't surprised.
Nope. East Carolina in the running to win the American, eh?
Oh yeah, they've totally got a path. Which, again, if you're a fan of any other G5 conference, this might be a team to root for, because you want to be up against a 10-3 East Carolina American champion if you're a James Madison, Southern Miss, Kennesaw State trying to get that G5 spot. This is probably who you want to run up against. Now, East Carolina fans, don't you worry. If you're going to win out and win the American, you're going to have some huge wins under your belt. So take those teams and beat them to the ground. That's how you get in.
At number 29, Missouri, they continue their slide downward without Bo Pribula. They lose to Texas A&M. This week, we said it, Mississippi State, a team the model can't quit. If Mississippi State beats Missouri, they're back in. If Missouri beats Mississippi State, they will hopefully move up a little bit. But Missouri in the struggle bus because they just don't have health.
But they actually have to leave their stadium now that they're in conference play. That does not help their cause.
Well, it took them more than just entering conference play. They were in Missouri for a while.
You know what they should do to their season? They should just put a nice banner over everything and just say under construction, because it's fitting to their stadium. It's fitting to their current roster. Just under construction.
Construction.
Resuming fall 2026.
The Missouri under constructions.
The under.
the Missouri roadwork aheads.
At number 28, Illinois. They were on a bye in week 11, and in week 12 they have Maryland.
What's there to say about this team? They had playoff hopes. They're gone with 3 losses. They'll probably win out. They'll probably finish 9-3. They're a really good team, but they won't be in the playoffs.
At number 27, that's right. Number 27, this team was ranked 21 in the AP poll this week and 25 in the CFP rankings last week. Tennessee at 27 here in the S&D 50, right where they should be. They were on a bye in week 11. This week they have New Mexico State. They should not earn any points for this game. We'll have to wait and see what they do when they get an SEC opponent that's worthy to score rating points again.
Guys, and Joey Aguilar is on pace to break Peyton Manning's single season for total yards thrown.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not. He's actually neck and neck to basically even with Peyton Manning on that.
Shocking.
Did Peyton Manning win a title with Tennessee?
No.
Okay, fitting.
Oh my gosh. Poor Tennessee fans is taking strays. Holy cannoli. First I go in and you go for the burial. Jeez Louise, Spencer.
I'm sorry. I don't, Tennessee fans don't at me, but I just, I don't know. Tennessee and Illinois are they give the same vibe to me. They're like they're the first place team in the second best tier of their conference, which, you know, I would say Tennessee or Illinois would probably be the second best team in the Big 12. They'd probably be the best team in the ACC. Like, these are not bad teams. But I don't know. In a world where SEC and Big 10 fans, especially SEC fans, talk about getting 7 teams in the playoff, it gets a little old. That's all I'll say. It gets a little old.
They have Florida after New Mexico State and then Vanderbilt. So really, it's just Vanderbilt. But if they beat Vanderbilt, then we'll talk Tennessee. You have a chance. It's the SEC.
I mean,
you
we'll
have
see
a chance
Florida.
every week to do something in
Florida,
SEC play.
Florida.
Yeah, well
Florida.
then, if Florida beats Tennessee, then they're going to be back in the model, and Spencer's going to be ticked.
Oh no, actually, yeah, never mind. I take it back. Don't win.
He's going to be chapped at 26. Pitt, they're on a bye. Can you believe this, my friends? Pittsburgh this week, they have Notre Dame. This is a challenge for Notre Dame. We'll get to this game. We'll preview it when we get to Notre Dame. But Pitt is dangerous with Heinschel, the freshman quarterback.
And Pitt is going to finish the year off with a tough slate. Final 3 games, like you said, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami. We're about to find who these Panthers really are.
College game day's going to Pittsburgh. Pat McAfee will be rocking for his Yinzers in Pittsburgh. It will be an electric atmosphere. So Pitt's got the wind at their back this week.
The most wild thing to me about this game, you know, I've mentioned the Clemson Florida State game was on ACC Network. You want to know what network is airing the Pitt Notre Dame college game day game? Anyone?
ESPN Plus.
No, it's actually ABC, but it's also on the ACC network. I thought it was funny that it's also going to be airing on the ACC network, but it will be on ABC as well. This is the primetime game that Clemson Florida State wishes that it was.
At number 25, up 9 spots, South Florida beats UTSA. UTSA finally away from home and the fake crowd noise Jacob mentioned last week. Good win for the Bulls. They are in prime position to compete for the American.
This is one of the few spots where the AP poll and the SND are right together.
Moment of silence. Thank you.
I'll say South Florida is a team that we have not been super high on in the SND. Our model has not shown them the kind of love the AP voters have. So it's interesting that South Florida got a huge boost from AP voters at the start of the year, only to settle down at 25. And we had South Florida much lower, only to have them sort of settle up. So fun to see. We all ended up at the same spot. Just got there 2 different ways.
And number 24, Georgia Tech. They were on a bye in week 11. This week, they have Boston College. Another chance to just get healthy, get another win, and prep for Georgia. At number 23, Arizona State. They were also on a bye in week 11. This week, they have West Virginia.
Pretty favorable schedule to finish things off. As Sam Levitt's out the rest of the year, they got Jeff Sims now in as starting QB, who can sling it, can run it, but has also been known to be turnover prone. If he keeps the turnovers under tab, they could win out. They got West Virginia, Colorado, and Arizona. And that's where things, if there's another 2-loss team in the Big 12, they can put themselves potentially in a tiebreaker to make the championship game, even without Sam Levitt.
Arizona State unranked in either the AP poll this week or the CFP rankings last week. Give them some more respect. At number 22, a team that gets too much respect in the model's opinion, Miami. They beat Syracuse. This week they have NC State.
Yeah, I think Miami needs to watch out for NC State. This could be another chance for a team that most people are sleeping on to take down a team that everyone thinks is going to dominate. I don't understand why people are still so high on Miami. Now, they're not that far off. I mean, we don't have the college football playoff rankings yet. Those will come out as you're listening to this. We'll release this Tuesday morning. Those will come out later tonight. There's not that big of a difference between 18 and 22, but I doubt they'll stay at 18. I bet they'll go up. So, we had them slide up 8 spots here, more because of teams going down than them going up, per se. They only got 64 rating points, but I don't know. People really love to love Miami, and our model just doesn't quite see it.
And I've been hating on Missouri for their 6-game homestand to start the year off, but gosh, I think Miami's schedule might have been worse. We saw when they finally left the state of Florida, traveled to SMU a couple weeks ago, and that they took that loss. And now they get NC State at home, and like you said, Spencer, NC State's pesky. NC State can score, so that makes them dangerous. But then they finish the year off with back-to-back road games outside of the state of Florida, going to Virginia Tech and then Pitt. That's when we're going to find out who this Miami Hurricane team is.
100%. Could not agree more. At number 21, another ACC team in the thick of it, Louisville. They lose to Cal 29-26 in an overtime thriller. Before we get to Louisville, we have to talk about Jacob's California Golden Bears. The guts to go for it on 4th and goal in overtime, to let your true freshman quarterback throw it to the pylon. Perfect throw. All I said to Jacob was, Kurt Signetti better get JKS next year to Indiana.
I also think you said it perfectly, Andrew, during the game when you talked about how Spencer's Louisville Cardinals were caught in the Calgorithm.
They were, and you called that too. You said Cal could run the table and they had a good chance to beat Louisville. One of those things came true, and shockingly it was them beating Louisville and not going 12-0. Spencer, what say ye about your Louisville Cardinals?
I got nothing to say. I mean,
you fall
they
to the
should have won this
California
game.
Golden
They
Bears
should
of
have
Jacob.
put the Golden Bears down, but disappointing. Disappointing.
This is for you laughing at my Calgo's undefeated take. Justice is paid.
Universe is paying you back a little bit, Jacob.
I wish I could have been there. I could have gone to the game. I could have commiserated. I could have had sad chicken from Royals. It's a great restaurant in Louisville for hot chicken. It would have been, a great time to be back in that town. But alas, maybe next year. Maybe once we take this show on the road, we'll go to a game at Louisville.
I would think that if you're Louisville, if they're still sponsored by Yum Brands, because I think the basketball stadium for a while was the Yum Center, the brand that owns Taco Bell, KFC.
KFC Yum Center, KFC Yum Arena, I think.
I think that
it's right there in downtown. It's an awesome arena.
I think there should only be allowed KFC Taco Bells in every Louisville game. Only. It has to be both of them. And Sam Reed, shout out Sam Reed if you're a YouTube connoisseur. Sam Reed would be all over it, but we would have to go and do a KFC Taco Bell stadium crawl to each event selling KFC Taco Bell.
It's been a minute since I've been there, but I'm pretty sure another fun thing about this, I'm pretty sure the Louisville football stadium is within like a stone's throw of the Kentucky Derby. Like they're pretty close together.
Louisville this week, they have Clemson. Big game for them as they fight to be in the ACC title game in some sort of tiebreaker. At number 20, up 4 spots, Vanderbilt. They beat Auburn, but boy, again, like Oregon, they survive.
But they did something that no other team has done against Auburn, and that's score more than 24 points.
Impressive. I mean, they also gave up a bunch and had to come back, and like I don't know if this was all that impressive, but hey, DJ Durkin trying to get a job.
At number 19, Oklahoma on the bye in week 11. This week, they have Alabama. What a game.
Yeah, that we'll talk a little bit more about it when we get all the way up to Alabama and the lofty heights of the top 5. But this is massive for the Sooners. This is their chance to prove that they deserve a playoff spot. I'll tell you right now, I don't think a 9-3 Oklahoma is in. I think that in a chaotic world, a 9-3 Oklahoma could be in. But in the same way that last year we had a really, really good Alabama team, 9-3, and then you end up with like an 11-2 conference runner-up. I get it. It's a 1-year sample size, but I feel like it sets a precedent. I think that there's enough competitive teams in that top 12 to 15 range that are going to only have 1 to 2 losses. You're going to have some conference runner-ups there. I don't think a 9-3 Oklahoma team gets in. So this game is huge for Oklahoma to keep their playoff chances comfortably alive.
At number 18, Cincinnati. They were also on a bye in week 11. Every week is a play-in game for them to get to the Big 12 title, in my opinion, for the rest of the year. They get Arizona. Not easy. They're going to have to be about it as they play Arizona and look ahead to a huge matchup with BYU. At number 17, Southern Miss. They are up 11 spots. They win in Jonesboro against Arkansas State, a game that had an abnormally high amount of turnovers. Check the box score if you didn't watch this game. But Southern Miss keeps their hopes alive. They're at 17.
Yeah, talk about turnovers. Southern Miss created, so Arkansas State turned the ball over 6 times in this game. There was one player on Southern Miss, Josh Moten. He had 3 interceptions in one game, and all 3 came on Southern Miss's side of the field, so the stop drives.
I caught the
It's
end of this
just
game and wondered how the score was this low with that many turnovers. It's shocking.
You also had a backup QB come in for Southern Miss. Backup QB came in for about a quarter of the game. Just a weird game overall, but Southern Miss continues to be the leader in the Sun Belt East.
Our third highest G5 rated team in the S&D 50.
I'm sorry, what? 17th, and they're only the third highest G5 team?
I know.
There shouldn't be any G5 teams at this point. Rah, 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 rah.
You're
College
right.
football playoff.
Spencer, you're absolutely right. The next 3 teams are about to show. Only James Madison appears in the AP poll this week. These other 2 do not appear anywhere. They are just missing, not getting votes, not being discussed. This is where we make our money as a model. Southern Miss is 17. James Madison, they are ranked 24 in the AP poll this week. James Madison at 16 beats Marshall. That's a good win for James Madison.
And I'm sorry, James Madison fans, but I don't think you guys keep Bob Chesney with what he's doing right now there and with what Kirk Signetti is doing. Everybody wants the next Kirk Signetti, so why not just look to the school where Kirk Signetti came from, and Bob Chesney might be your next big hire.
It really makes you wonder, like, who's going to poach James Madison's athletic director? Because it's got to be the same guy. I don't know. So if you know in the comments, put it in. But, like, it's got to be the same AD who hired both of these guys.
You're saying we have a Sam Presti of the FBS hiding in James Madison?
Maybe.
Sounds like what he's
throwing
saying.
some love for Sam Presti in a college football podcast. Did not expect that.
Sam Presti is an honorary sicko on this podcast for his eye for talent. Sorry, it's just the truth.
And for those who have no idea who Sam Presti is,
GM for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
that championship roster basically from scratch.
And sidebar, at 16 years old, he was a diehard Celtics fan. He wrote the Boston Globe at 16, an entire opinion article about why the Celtics needed to draft Jason Kidd and broke it down in exquisite detail. And the Celtics did not draft Jason Kidd. At number 15, North Texas. Here they are, the highest rated group of 5 team. Jacob said this earlier. If you're Eric Morris, Bob Chesney, or Charles Huff, the S&D 50 is telling you, if you're a fan of any of these 3 schools, your coach is ripe for the picking for any of these open spots. North Texas is doing their thing. They were on a bye in week 11. They have UAB this week.
And what makes what Eric Morris is doing at North Texas might be a little more impressive than what Bob Chesney is doing at James Madison is that James Madison has the infrastructure. They've traditionally been a winning program. North Texas is not that way at all. North Texas doesn't even really have the support from the community. They had their first sellout this year, and then the next game after was maybe half full because they lost the sellout game. But Eric Morris continues to churn wins out at North Texas. They got Drew Mestemaker balling out like the backup QB he was in high school. And it is going to be fun to see if this team can run the table. And if they do, they are a shoo-in for the playoffs.
And no one's talking about them in week 12. We are. Share this with your friends if you want to sound super smart. If North Texas wins out, we're here. Even a week ago and 2 weeks ago, we've been on this.
3 weeks ago.
Goodness gracious.
We've been talking about North Texas for a while here.
Not surprising. At number 14, Michigan on a bye. They have Northwestern this week. That is no easy task. At number 13, USC up 4 spots. They beat Northwestern. This game was on Friday. Good win for USC. Now they get Iowa. Good luck, USC, taking on Iowa. It may be a better weather game. Maybe.
Now, here's what I want to say about Northwestern. This was a Friday night game. I watched it, and I thought Northwestern was going to win. Just like the vibes, the trend through the first half, right up until the most like heartbreaking play imaginable, which is a Northwestern run that results in, he's like going for the pylon, and it results in a fumble that then bounces out of the back of the end zone for a touchback for USC. Like, and the worst part is it wasn't just like a bounce and gone moment, but like there were Northwestern players able to fall on the ball and nobody could corral it. Like you had Northwestern blockers who were there sliding to the ground comfortably in bounds, ball right in their lap, and they can't grab it. It bounces off their knee and then their knee and then it's gone. Just such a heartbreaking play for a Northwestern fan to watch. Not that I am one, but for those Northwestern fans out there, I feel you. I feel you right now. That play turned the momentum of the game. I think it was over after that.
What is USC's and Michigan's path to the playoffs? Because now we're up in the 14 range. These are teams that are very much in striking distance. I get that maybe the title game is out of conversation for some of them. Maybe not.
I don't know.
If not, let's
talk
break
about
it down, Spencer.
Michigan 7-2 right now. You know how many Big Ten losses they have? Just one. Just one loss to USC. And their non-conference losses to Oklahoma. So they've got 2 losses that look really good. If they beat Ohio State, they knock Ohio State out of the Big Ten title game. Just straight up. If Michigan wins out and beats Ohio State in the game at home at the Big House, that's a play-in game to the Big Ten title. That is the Big Ten East
all over again
title game.
That's great. USC's path.
USC is a win and you're in team. They don't have a path to they actually also have only one conference loss because they have a non-conference loss in Notre Dame, but they don't have as simple of a path in because their remaining games don't include Ohio State or Indiana, and so they would need help with the way tiebreakers are to make it to the title game. They wouldn't have that head-to-head over either of those teams. And so USC, probably not a path to the Big Ten title game realistically without some chaos that at this point, transparently, just don't expect.
At number 12, BYU, they dropped 7 spots. They looked absolutely incompetent on offense against Texas Tech. The Fightin' Jay Hills gave their all. It was not enough. What is BYU's path to the Big 12 title game and ultimately the playoff?
Their path is winning you're in. Like, to both of those things. If they win their way through the rest of the season, they win against Cincinnati. There'll be a one-loss team. Cincinnati will take their second loss. There will be no other one-loss teams in the Big 12. And they'll get a rematch against Texas Tech, inevitably. And then depending on how they show up against Texas Tech, if it's a worse beatdown or similar beatdown, then they really put their playoff hopes on life support. They would probably need some help. Even as an 11-2 runner-up, they'd need to be an 11-2 runner-up being compared to a 9-3 Oklahoma, not a 10-2 USC, right? But you beat Texas Tech and you're in. Probably if you beat Texas Tech, you're both in, you know. We haven't seen Texas Tech in these rankings yet, obviously, but that's BYU's path right now is win and you're in. Knock out Cincinnati, take away any chance for a tiebreaker, get to the Big 12 title game and try again. I don't know if they can. That Texas Tech defense is scary good. But hey, might as well try.
At number 11, gasp. Utah, down a spot. They were on a bye. They get Baylor, but they are ahead of BYU. What on earth is going on, Spencer? How is a team that lost a head-to-head ahead of the team they lost to?
Let me ask you a question, Andrew. How often do we consider head-to-heads in our ratings?
We do not. Ever.
We do not.
Not once.
Ever. We consider what happens on the field each week. Time is something that we consider, meaning that you get credit for how teams in the past do. If you beat a team that wins, you get some more credit added to your rating. If you lose to a team that loses, you get credit taken away. You know, even if you beat a team that then turns around and loses, you actually lose a little bit of credit because then your win is not as valuable. You don't lose as much. But, you know, without getting too deep into it, and if you want us to get deep into it, let us know. But, you know, this game that they played was a month ago. So the impact on each other's ratings for each other's performance has essentially netted to 0. I mean, that's why you didn't see Utah drop any points because they lost to BYU, who lost to Texas Tech, because that game was far enough ago, long enough ago, it's not affecting Utah's rating. Meanwhile, Utah has been racking up rating points by dominating everyone they played. Had they not blown out Cincinnati, had it been a much closer game, BYU would still be ahead of Utah. I did game that scenario because I was curious about it. If you win by only 1 score, you just don't earn as many points for that win. And you end up lower. You end up with like 57-30 instead of 57-80 as your rating. And so you would have been behind BYU, who sits at 57-59. At the end of the day, it's about what you do on the field. And I don't know about you guys, but Utah BYU today, I think Utah would win that game. They look like a much better team right now than BYU did against at least Texas Tech.
Number 10, Week 12, Oregon. They finally get in the top 10 of the S&D 50. It feels justified because they get the win, but if you watch the game, I don't think you feel super confident, but hey, Oregon's here. They have Minnesota. They have a chance to an at-large bid in the playoff.
I feel like Minnesota could be a trip game for them. You know, they proved last week that they can win in true Big Ten fashion. But, you know, we saw what just happened with Wisconsin and Washington. I mean, you could really easily see the same thing happen with Minnesota and Oregon. So, Ducks, watch your step. That boat might be rowing in your direction.
At number 9, Georgia. They beat Mississippi State handily. That's a good win. It knocks Mississippi State out of the S&D 50. Georgia gets Texas this week. And before we get there, at number 8, we have Texas. They are on a bye. Here we go, guys. This is also a competitive game preview, so we'll get to that here at the end. But this is a big game. Why is Georgia behind Texas and Ole Miss in the S&D 50 this week?
Because they're not that good.
Here I was about to come in with something scientific and because they're not that good. No, the
I'm
reason
sorry. I have a hard time believing in this Georgia team. I just do. They've squeaked by too many mediocre opponents.
Well, it's funny to me, really funny and interesting that they are, separated like this. Even more so because Texas was on a bye. Texas was on a bye and got more points added to their rating than Georgia did for beating Mississippi State so much more comfortably than Texas did just 2 weeks ago. And you might look at that and scratch your head and say, what on earth is happening there? Well, I'll tell you what on earth is happening there is we value Texas's 1-week-old win over Vanderbilt a lot. And we don't really value the win against Mississippi State. They both beat Mississippi State. And yeah, Texas struggled, but also Florida got beat by Kentucky. Georgia barely beat Florida 2 weeks ago. So if you look behind the curtain here, Texas got 71 points. All of it is from past opponent adjustments. Georgia actually got about the same amount for beating Mississippi State. If it was just that and nothing else, they would still be ahead of Texas. It would be like a 1 or 2 point difference. It would be so neck and neck. But Georgia lost points because a team they barely beat just 2 weeks ago got rocked by what the model had seen as a pretty bad Kentucky team. So that adjustment is what leaves us with a point separation of less than 30. In a scale of thousands, it's less than 30 points separating them. But that's why Georgia, in the model, is behind Texas.
Number 7, Texas Tech. This feels right. They're up 4 spots.
I'll say about Texas Tech is that their defense could take anyone.
Yep. They look very much like a contender. At number 6, Notre Dame boat races Navy 49-10. Notre Dame doing what Notre Dame does, winning late and being convincing and leaving us all scratching our heads with what the heck happened at the beginning of the year.
We're just gonna glaze over the fact that you said boat racing Navy. No, I mean, I think Notre Dame has their biggest test remaining this weekend against Pitt. And it could be a lot of the same, but this is a Notre Dame team that frankly struggled against Boston College on the road. I think that this Notre Dame team has flaws. They are playing like a top 10 team most of the time, but unlike teams like Ohio State and Texas A&M and Indiana and even like Texas Tech or Georgia, they feel like they could have bigger mistakes. They feel like they could have big missteps. Like a team against Pitt feels like the team that could capitalize on that.
At number 5, Ole Miss. They beat the Citadel 49-0. The only thing to take away from this game was Lane Kiffin photobombing a proposal during the game in between quarters. Snooze fest. This week, Ole Miss has Florida.
You want to know something kind of wild about Ole Miss? We had them slide up in our model only because BYU lost. We had BYU number 5 last week. So they took that open spot. They're only 5 points ahead of Notre Dame, by the way, only like 20 points ahead of Texas Tech. Any of these 3 teams, I think, could comfortably be number 5 behind our quartet at the top. The wild thing that I heard, courtesy of Cover 3, was that there were multiple AP voters, like a dozen of them, who both moved Ole Miss up and moved Oregon down this week in their AP ballots, despite the fact that Ole Miss beat the Citadel and Oregon beat a ranked Iowa team.
Egregious.
I get that we've Ole Miss at 5. We actually have Ole Miss really high, but we have had Ole Miss really high this whole time.
But we don't use stack bias, meaning
No,
we don't level up on who you beat, unlike how these polls work, where if you beat a ranked team, you should get more credit. So that's terrible, which is why it's terrible from a voter standpoint.
We don't try to align with the CFP. I mean, how many voters probably took the CFP and were like, well, I was pretty different. I better get closer, you know?
Fair.
I think that happens a lot.
And all I gotta say is, dang, I was looking forward to seeing when Ole Miss played the Citadel and dropped 5 spots for playing a FCS team, but it looks like all their opponents did enough work to pull the weight and keep them just about where they were at.
Well, actually, I'll say they only got a few points for beating the Citadel. Like, I want to say of that 13, it was like 7 of them, which is not a lot. They just had a big enough gap that they didn't quite get caught. But that gap got closed a lot by Notre Dame and Texas Tech. Texas, Georgia, the winner of that game is almost certainly going to jump to this 5th spot because there's a lot of points to be had when you're playing someone rated so high.
At number 4, Indiana. I don't know how they got out of that Penn State game alive, but they did. They are here at 4. I don't think we'll see a similar penalty to them in any other AP poll. We didn't see it in the AP poll. I doubt we'll see it in the CFP rankings. But holy crap, they should not be at number 2, almost losing to Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, I was reminded again that Penn State, for all its struggles, is a team loaded with future NFL talent. A team that is, if they can't get their house in order, ripe for the transfer portal pickings. But as it stands right now, they're still a super talented team. So be wary if you have Penn State on the back half of your schedule, the back quarter of your schedule. There's still some life in that team.
You know that Scooby-Doo meme where it's Fred pulling the ghost mask off the bad guy? I feel like it was UCLA, Penn State playing UCLA and pulling off the mask, and UCLA was Penn State. And then this last week, Penn State pulls off their own mask and they're UCLA.
That's too good.
At number 3, Texas A&M. They beat under construction Missouri, but they are still a team with national championship hopes in mind. They get better and better by the week.
I'm sorry, Missouri. We do love you, and if we ever go to a game there, we'll have Shakespeare's Pizza. But I just, a lot of people are going to put Texas A&M 2 this week, which obviously we have them behind a different team, not Indiana. But I think that there's a case to be made for that. I think Texas A&M, if I were ranking, not just going off of the model, but if I were ranking, I think I would have Texas A&M as number 2 right now. A really, really good football team, and I love Mike Elko. I love his post-game talk, and I think he's a great coach. And, doesn't seem like he's at risk of getting poached, which is also nice if you're an A&M fan, but gotta love how things are going in College Station.
Number 2, I disagree with you, Spencer. Alabama deserves to be at 2. The model has them at 2, but I personally put them ahead of Texas A&M and Indiana simply because you do not want to play Alabama in any way, shape, or form. They are scary.
Bad if I disagree. I think Alabama's the best one-loss team in the country, but I think I would take Texas A&M or Indiana over them right now.
The good news is we will find out. These teams will probably play some mix of them.
Yeah, and Indiana played Penn State, super close, almost lost. Alabama played South Carolina, super close, almost lost. But between those two games, I think the Alabama win was way, way luckier than the Penn State win.
And at number 1, to no one's surprise, Buckeyes, Ohio State. Number 1, Yet again, if we were doing stickers for weeks at number 1, Ohio State takes the cake. They are just getting ready for Michigan at this point.
Well, now that you've said that, I'm going to have to do something.
Next week.
They haven't
Keep
been
an eye
number
on
one
it,
all
folks.
season. They were number 2 for at least 1 week. They were number 2.
Yeah, we had A&M at number 1 for a week
I think
previously. The model going high on A&M before everyone else was high on them.
that was just when Ohio State was playing the weakest part of its schedule. Now that it's got through some of its more medium tough games, like Purdue, who Ohio State beat Purdue at the same margin that Texas Tech beat Utah. So, and Utah is like a top 15 team. Maybe Texas Tech should be the best one-loss team in the country. I don't know.
No, Ohio State is a juggernaut. Let's not mince words here. It's their year to lose. That wraps up the S&D 50 for week 12. Now we get into fun stuff. The conference index. This is where we show the number of teams in the S&D 50 by conference. We show the difference in rating, average rating between each conference. We had a major shakeup this week. Spencer.
I mean, let's jump right to it. The Mountain West, who have been 6th behind SEC, Big 10, Big 12, ACC, and American, have been comfortably sitting there ever since we got into conference play, has now dropped a spot to the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt just eking out enough points in their average rating to pass the Mountain West. Part of that is driven by the Mountain West imploding. Part of that is driven by, leakage when teams continue to play independents or Pac-2 teams, but the Sun Belt coming up strong, having 2 teams in the top 20 of our model really helps here.
And the Big 12 gets ever closer to the Big 10. It is
Inching
so
up.
close. You would not know it if you didn't follow this show.
And it's because the middle of the Big 12 is really good and really competitive. The Big 12 has as many teams in the S&D 50 as the SEC does.
Crazy.
And more teams than the Big 10.
And more teams than the Big 10. Now, there's a couple of teams, if you were to go out into the 50s, you got an SEC team right on the doorstep there. That would be their 12th, just barely missed it. Like, Big 10 has more teams, too. But the Big 10 is weighed down by some, really weak teams. Big 12 is as well with Oklahoma State. Don't get me wrong, but Big 12 keeps catching up little by little.
And what really stands out to me on this graphic is the ACC average rating goes down by 31 points because we see all the cannibalization happening. We see Duke losing the UConn. Big drop for the ACC.
Let's delve into this conference, talk even more. Our week 12 conference quads. This is where we take groups of 4 top rated in the S&D 50 and we compare them to all other segments.
Yeah, we got our standard groups at the top that you would expect to see: SEC, Big 10, Big 12. Interestingly, though, some changes in the makeup. Texas moving up into the top 4 of the SEC sends Georgia down to the SEC's B squad with the likes of Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, and Tennessee. Miami also sliding back up into the ACC A team. They sit at 5th behind the SEC B team just mentioned. But the shakeup here is that we actually had the Sun Belt, again, driven by their 2 leading teams, James Madison and Southern Miss, enter the top 10 of the conference quad. So welcome, Sun Belt. They debut comfortably at number 9 ahead of the SEC's C group, which slipped 2 spots. They were number 8 before. They slipped down to number 10. That SEC group is Missouri, LSU, Kentucky, and Mississippi State. The SEC, so deep, continues to be the deepest conference. But, to see the Sun Belt come up, restore a second group of 5 team to the top 10 after it had been the ACCB group last week, fun to see them.
Boy, I would love to see a James Madison versus Missouri matchup.
Well, wouldn't we all? It'll have some people's knickers in a twist seeing that Sun Belt ahead of the SEC group. Our week 12 playoff picture. It looks a little different this week, Spencer.
Yeah, some changes. We have a really important thing to remind people of. Two things here. Number one, Seeding is determined by playoff ranking, not by conference titles. There are no buys given for winning a conference championship. It's just the 4 highest ranked teams. In addition, the playoff is not the Power 4 conference champions and the highest group of 5 champion. It is the 5 highest ranked group of 5 champions. Now I get it. This is the S&D. This is not what the playoff committee actually thinks. But if you take a look right here, we do not have an ACC team in the playoffs right now. We project that the 5-12 matchup would be Ole Miss against the 12 seed and 16th ranked James Madison, winner of the Sun Belt. We project that the 6-11 matchup will be Notre Dame hosting the 11 seed, 15th ranked American champion, North Texas. The winner of Ole Miss, James Madison, would play Indiana in the Orange Bowl. The winner of Notre Dame, North Texas, would play Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl. But our 5 conference champions here will be Ohio State, Alabama, Texas Tech, North Texas, and James Madison. It would not include the ACC champion. Now, what are the odds of that? I don't know. Talk to me if Duke wins, but I think it would be. It's a fun scenario to look at. It would be a crazy thing if it ever happened. I don't think it would. Other matchups here, Texas, Georgia in the 8-9, a rematch from the season. Obviously, this isn't going to happen because they literally play this weekend. Texas Tech, Oregon, though. Imagine the Ducks rolling into Lubbock, a place that I am hearing on every show of anyone who went to that game this weekend that it's like the nicest set of facilities in all of college football. Crazy, crazy. That would be a crazy atmosphere for a playoff game in December.
They better lift the tortilla throwing ban if there's a playoff game hosted in Lubbock, or I will be chapped to my core.
It's just a Big 12 ban, right? That's just conference play.
Yeah, throw the tortillas. Goodness gracious. The S&D 50 group of 5, top 25 in week 12. We have argued, we have discussed, we have put the Pac-2 and UConn back into this ranking. There are people who won't like it. There are people who do like it. I'm sorry, we're putting them in. This is how it shakes out this week. This G5 top 25 rankings are up for grabs week in and week out.
Okay. And what really gets me going here is we see UConn at 15th of the S&D G525, and they just beat a top contender in the ACC, Duke. So what does that say about the 14 other teams that are in front of UConn?
It says that Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State is a top 12 matchup in the G5 top 25 this week. North Texas, James Madison, Southern Miss, any one of them could represent, just like we said in this playoff picture. It's scary. This is scary business, and this is what makes college football fun if you're a fan of the entire sport. And how about Missouri State at number 24, first year in the FBS?
And Kennesaw State, second year in the FBS and knocking on the door of being a top 5 G5 team.
I mean, if they beat Jacksonville State, they could easily pass East Carolina and South Florida.
This is my favorite graphic we make every week. It has become a favorite. I love seeing Hawaii at 18. Old Dominion comes back. They're now at 17. Again, if you watch this, the teams 13 through 25 change every week. So enjoy it. Week 12 games to watch. These are the games the model identifies as competitive because these teams have the closest S&D 50 rating differential. Our weekday slate is number 101 Buffalo going to number 108 Central Michigan and number 73 Troy going to number 62 Old Dominion.
Guys, the S&D 50 has brought these weekday CUSA and Maction games to life. This Buffalo team is not out of the MAC picture. Even though they rank number 101, they're 4-1 in MAC play. Central Michigan's 3-2 in MAC play. So this is almost basically an eliminator game between Buffalo and Central Michigan for who might still have some hope left to win the MAC. And then we talk about Troy and Old Dominion in the Sun Belt. Troy's another team who is a sleeper in the Sun Belt West Division, currently in second place has yet to face Southern Miss, and so honestly still control their destiny of being the team that's being overlooked, and has a big game. Though they have to take care of business against Old Dominion, who we see is a pesky and really solid team in the Sun Belt.
Our early slate of Saturday games: Eastern Michigan and Ball State, two teams that were in it last week that delivered. We expect fireworks yet again. Oregon State and Tulsa, and South Alabama and Louisiana Monroe. South Alabama, a team that's always in this hunt of competitive games, and ULM, a team we've highlighted earlier in the season, should be a great game. Rating difference between Eastern Michigan and Ball State, 17.7. Is this the sicko game of the week?
I mean, it's the closest, but technically, if we're going off of rating difference, Eastern Michigan Ball State is the sicko game of the week. Vibes? There are some contenders here, not least of which is Oregon State Tulsa.
Louisiana Monroe still has a shot at a bowl game. They're 3-6. They have to win out, though, if they're to get that first trophy in that trophy case. So, crucial game for them here against South Alabama.
Muncie, Indiana is the place to watch the sicko game of the week. If we had sponsorship money, that's where we'd be going, no doubt. The evening Saturday games to watch: Liberty, FIU, Coastal, Georgia Southern, Texas, Georgia, Virginia Tech, Florida State, Louisiana Tech, Washington State. The rating differences for Texas, Georgia, and Louisiana Tech and Washington State, so small. 29.3 for Texas, Georgia, 32.1 for Louisiana Tech, Washington State.
I mean, we haven't really talked about Texas, Georgia yet. Do we think that this is actually going to be a competitive game?
Yes, because every game with Georgia is competitive. It doesn't matter the quality of the opponent.
I think Georgia at home runs away with it, but I agree with you, Jacob. I would not be surprised by a close result, but Georgia feels like the better team because we've just yet to see Texas do it, but they beat Vanderbilt, so I guess they did. I don't know. I have a lot of questions.
I'm the opposite, Andrew. I wouldn't be surprised to see Texas run away with it.
That's cool.
That's what I was going to say.
That's cool. I think I like that we have a little bit of gridlock here.
I think that 2 weeks ago, I would have been fully on your side. You know, I would have said Georgia plays every game close, but they're probably a better team. And yeah, you know, barely beating Florida probably looks better than barely beating Mississippi State in overtime. But these teams have changed since then, and Texas grew up against Vanderbilt. I think if Georgia wins, it's going to be a home field thing, you know, but I think Texas has potential to run away with this and really establish themselves as a top 10 team.
And then speaking of that Virginia Tech Florida State game, we think it's going to be competitive. Vegas does not. Florida State favored by 13.5 points over Virginia Tech.
Crazy. But we actually looked last week at our competitive games, and we looked at all of the games where we said it would be competitive, but the lines had one team is more than a touchdown favorite. And had you bet the spread, had you bet the cover on the 4 games where that happened, you would have gone 3 for 4. So we don't condone betting on this podcast, though, so probably just cut that out. But it's kind of sick.
It's a great stat, but remember, do not use this to gamble because these are not predictive ratings. We do not account for who's injured. So if you don't know that, do not use this. But if teams are healthy, you could. That's what I'll say. But
it's just a
do it
data
at
point.
your own peril. We do not bet with these numbers ourselves. So do it at your own risk. That concludes our pod this week. Spencer, thank you so much for being here.
Always a pleasure. I love breaking down the ratings and the rankings. If you have questions about why your team ended up where it did, or if you're upset that your rival's getting too much credit, drop them in the comments. Let us know. We're really considering doing like a whole mailbag section with questions pulled straight from the comment section. We love hearing from you. We even try to respond when we can to the actual detailed questions with detailed answers. So we can answer it. We will. We might just save it for the show, though, and answer it there.
Jacob, thank you so much for being here and for all of your insights tonight.
My pleasure. It just was so good to see 2 G5 teams in the SND playoff scenario.
That's got to make you your heart just burst with joy.
Oh, so much.
That's so great. We hope you guys all have a great week. We just love you so much. And we're so grateful you listen and you watch. Share it with your friends. Enjoy.
Find us on Patreon.
Find us
Say
on
that.
Patreon. Subscribe there. Subscribe to the channel. Just keep watching this great season of football. It will continue to deliver. We see it every single week. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.